Sergeant Ramirez squinted through the grimy observation window of the Terran outpost. Out there in the inky vastness of space, a sleek, silver ship shimmered like a dying star. Earth, their dusty, forgotten cradle of a planet, hardly registered on the galactic stage. They were the galactic janitors, the last stop before the abyss, tasked with monitoring a dead-end sector. Then came the distress signal, weak, garbled, a desperate plea for help. The language was beyond their rudimentary translators, but the raw terror in the transmission needed no decryption. "They say it's the Xylosians," Captain Petrov, a man with a face etched by countless unremarkable patrols, spoke behind Ramirez. "Who are the Xylosians? Again?" "Some obscure, telepathic race. Supposedly brilliant minds trapped in frail bodies. Galactic Council quarantined them for their own protection after a few incidents." Ramirez raised an eyebrow. "Incidents? Turns out tinkering with higher dimensions can get messy." Petrov shrugged. "They were relegated to that backwater sector near the Vela pulsar." Ramirez smirked. "Backwater sounds familiar, doesn't it?" A tense silence followed. Their own history whispered of struggles, of being underestimated. A second, stronger distress signal tore through the silence, followed by a deep, booming voice resonating in everyone's heads. It wasn't a language, but a primal scream of fear. Captain Specialist Diaz, the ship's comms officer, her voice trembling. "They're being attacked. Some huge, spiked ship is tearing them apart." The observation screen flickered to life, showing a horrific scene. A massive, obsidian craft, bristling with weapons, loomed over a smaller, spindly vessel. Ramirez felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. These weren't T-scavengers or pirates. These were organized, ruthless hunters. "What's the protocol?" Captain Diaz's voice was barely a whisper. Petrov stared at the carnage on the screen, his weathered face grim. "Standard protocol says we observe and report." Ramirez felt a surge of defiance. They weren't glorified telescope operators anymore. They were Terrans, survivors, and they understood fear better than most. "Captain, with all due respect, standard protocol got us stuck cleaning up other people's messes all our lives," Ramirez said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Those poor things out there, they're being slaughtered." Petrov looked at him, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. It was the same spark that had ignited countless Terran victories against impossible odds. "All right," Ramirez Petrov said, his voice firm. "Prepare for engagement. Let's show these bastards what a backwater can do." A cheer erupted in the control room. Here were Terrans, armed with jury-rigged tech and a history steeped in resilience, facing down a technologically superior foe. While Ramirez barked orders, his mind raced. They couldn't win in a head-on fight, but they had one thing the Xylosians and the attackers both lacked: desperation. "Diaz, open a secure channel to the Xylosian ship. Tell them we're here to help, but they need to follow our lead." Diaz's fingers flew across the console. A moment later, a telepathic response flooded Ramirez's mind. We are grateful. But you cannot fight them. They're weapons." "We'll manage." Ramirez cut in, the adrenaline coursing through him. "Just trust us." The alien ship, battered and bruised, responded by activating their hyperdrive, leaving a trail of debris in their wake. Ramirez grinned. "They got the message," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. The Terran ship, a cobbled-together patchwork of salvaged tech and human ingenuity, wasn't built for high-speed chases. They were trailing, but Ramirez knew hyperdrives were energy-intensive. It wouldn't be long before their quarry ran out of juice. Suddenly, a new, horrific ship materialized right in front of them, blocking their path. It was like a steel scorpion, its barbed tail glowing ominously. "They split their forces," Petrov cursed. "They know we're a threat." Ramirez saw fear flicker in his captain's eyes, but Petrov quickly masked it. Evasive maneuvers. "Diaz, target their engines." Full power. They weaved and dodged beams of energy, Ramirez's heart hammering against his ribs. Their old ship creaked and groaned in protest. "Direct hit on their engines," Captain Diaz gasped, her voice triumphant. The monstrous ship sputtered, its lights flickering wildly as they blasted past. Send a priority message to whoever runs this circus, Petrov ordered. We have Xylosian survivors in tow, and anyone getting between us and Earth will find out just how much firepower we can pack into this sardine can. The message was simple, brutal, and quintessentially Terran. The galactic equivalent of a snarling alley cat protecting its own. The rest of the journey was uneventful but tense. The alien ship stuck to their tail like a terrified child, while the larger pursuer seemed to have taken their threat seriously, holding its distance. When Earth came into view, it was Ramirez's turn to be awestruck. From this distance, the planet radiated a soft blue glow, a vibrant jewel against the inky darkness. So this is home, a soft, melodious thought touched his mind. Ramirez turned to see a knot of Xylosians, no taller than a human child. They were spindly, with enormous eyes shimmering with an unnervingly deep intelligence. Yep, Ramirez confirmed with a grin. Not much to look at, but there's no place quite like it. You have defended us. Why? Came the collective thought. Ramirez's smile faded slightly. Why? Because sometimes the right thing to do isn't the easy thing. Or the smart thing. You are an anomaly. Story of our existence, Ramirez chuckled. As they prepared for landing, the Terran ship was met not with weapons, but a fleet of rescue craft and medical shuttles. Earth's resources were already being mobilized to help their fragile new guests. It seemed the message to the galactic community was received loud and clear. Don't mess with Earth, or expect to find yourself in a very difficult neighborhood. Landing in a secluded complex built specifically for the Xylosians, Ramirez saw a wave of confused emotions wash over the aliens: fear, sorrow, and a glimmer of hope. Welcome to Earth, Ramirez said, and though his words were lost to them, the Xylosians seemed to understand the intent. Their leader, a particularly frail individual, extended a thin tendril towards him. The connection pulsed with gratitude, respect, and a hint of bewilderment. Ramirez returned it with a firm handshake. The first few months were chaotic. Earth, already a melting pot of cultures, had to adapt overnight to a species with needs and abilities unlike anything seen before. The Xylosians were telepathic to an astonishing degree, their thought streams interweaving in a complex tapestry beyond Terran understanding, but they were also physically vulnerable, their bodies as fragile as glass. Their arrival brought an unexpected surge of innovation across Earth. Telepathic translation devices were designed, allowing the two species to finally understand one another. Advancements in medicine and artificial support systems were made at breathtaking speed, all aimed at protecting the vulnerable visitors. It was as if the Xylosians were a catalyst, igniting untapped potential in humanity. Of course, not everyone on Earth or in the Galactic Council was pleased. Whispers of resentment surfaced, fears about these newcomers who threatened to upend the status quo. Ramirez spent far too many nights listening to politicians and pundits debate the potential dangers of harboring beings capable of such complex thought. But then, the Xylosians shared their gifts. Their vast libraries of knowledge, chronicling the rise and fall of countless civilizations, were laid open for their protectors. They offered glimpses into quantum mechanics, into dimensions beyond comprehension, pushing Terran science leaps and bounds ahead. Ramirez would always remember the first time he saw a Xylosian engineer think a design into existence, the final, shimmering product materializing from thin air. In truth, it was a symbiotic relationship. The Xylosians found sanctuary, and Earth found purpose. No longer a neglected speck on the galactic map, they were wardens, a beacon of empathy in an indifferent universe. Ramirez often mused over late-night rations with Petrov. Think we finally outgrew the backwater title, don't you think, Captain? Petrov would always just grin and raise his chipped coffee mug. Damn right, Ramirez. Damn right. The story of Earth and the Xylosians became a legend whispered across the stars. It was a tale of unexpected alliances, of a species rising above its circumstances, and a reminder even the galaxy's smallest sparks could ignite the greatest transformations.